Okay, thank you all for being here. And it's an honor for me. I don't remember how many I've attended, but short count would be, well, my first ISAP was in 1992. Delivered a paper then, so it's been a while.
Couple of years.
Couple of years. And not every time, but I try to come to every one because I think it's important what they're doing. I want to support it. It's important work, and it's delightful to get together with people that I know. This is a great opportunity. So I am happy to be here, and thank you for being here. We have two gentlemen in uniform, so I want to thank you for your service, Major and Captain. I appreciate that. Service is important. I'm retired Navy, and I understand what it takes to serve our country in that capacity. It's kind of a fancy title, Mission Ready Adaptive Systems. There's lots of terms I could use. That's one of the terms that I'm using right now. It's very close to, it's actually a version of a complex adaptive system. Complex adaptive systems are becoming quite popular in terms of discussion now. Almost common language in many quarters. So Mission Ready Adaptive Systems is my version of a complex adaptive system that is useful in the cockpit environments of today's modern airliner. Now, as a caveat, I first got into this area of design, if you will, when I was asked to join the initial cockpit design team for the F-22. Why, as a Navy fighter pilot working on an Air Force fighter? That's a long story. And if you want to catch me after this, I will try to explain if I can. It actually did happen. I'm not exactly sure how it came about, but I'll do my best to explain it after this discussion. It is kind of an interesting story, frankly. Optimized display features. So we're looking at how can we improve the human-machine interface? And what can we do on the machine side? Now remember that we do a lot of work on the human side, a lot of work. AQP, if anybody is familiar with that, I was on the ground floor of that initiative. Me and Captain Ted Mallory were the first airline pilots assigned to that project. It was a national project sponsored by the FAA. So we did a lot of work on the crew station side. Military has done a lot of work on the crew station side. Is there something we can do on the machine side that would be helpful? And that's where I was brought in to solve a huge problem, because the machine side didn't seem to be working as well as we would like it to work. Again, that's me, author, speaker, design consultant. Now I'm retired from active flying because of my age. Not necessarily mental condition, but my age. Right.
Yeah, right.
It's age related. My first major initiative in the military was air combat, trying to improve the performance of air combat operations. This is commonly referred to as Top Gun. We didn't call it that back then, but we'll use the common term. Thank you for Tom Cruise for that movie. And then I have a book that's in national distribution. You can buy it anywhere if you want. It's a big book. I would suggest your librarian buy it. It's fairly expensive. But if you want more information about it, if you are involved in the human-machine interface issues, and I think a lot of us are, in various forms and fashions. I don't care where you're coming from. You could be the research side, you could be the operational side, you could be a design engineer or involved in the design side. All right, there's some serious issues that we need to cover, and we need to be mature about it and not defensive, and we need to work together. All right, because there are some serious issues that we have to deal with, whether we like it or not. That's the book published by IGI Global, big publishing house out of Pennsylvania. The story. All right, so we're going to start. This actually is a story. This, as it turns out, is a real story, and it happened to me. All right, and so I'm going to give it to you with minor embellishments, but you know how stories go, right? Sometimes, but I'll try to be as straightforward as I can. Optimize flight crew performance. I got the call from the secretary of the vice president of pilot training at this major airline that I was working for. And I happened to be in the training center at the time. I was working another project. I was actually finishing up the AQP project that I was on, another training development project. So we redesigned airline pilot training for all US carriers, by the way, and they're all using it now. And so I got this call, and the secretary said the vice president wants to see you tomorrow. I says, okay. So I go in and talk to him, and he says, Kevin, we have a problem. Oh, okay, what is it? Well, we got a problem with the 767 fleet. Okay, what is it? Well, performance. You know, we don't know what is going on, except that pilots are really struggling in this transition training program. Do you know what it is? And he says, no. He says that, frankly, Kevin, I don't know what the problem is, but we got to fix it. It's costing us a lot of money, and it's not good for pilot morale. There's something wrong with the training system. All right, so, and that was a very healthy thing. You see what he just said? He didn't blame it on the pilots, did he? You know, he wanted me to look at the whole system. The easy way out would be say, well, you know, pilots, it's the pilot's fault. But we didn't do that, all right? And he knew I wouldn't do that either. You know, because I'm pilot friendly. And so I got to work. So another guy and I formed this little task force, Captain Watkins and myself. We wanted to look at how do we optimize flight crew performance in modern airline operations. Now remember that I had some background in this field of study, if you will, or this initiative. I dealt with military and commercial operations, deal with a lot of performance optimization, advanced aircrew systems. So my career, in addition to flying all kinds of neat, wonderful airplanes, I also was involved in designing cockpits and training systems. So I was involved in everything. I didn't design the coffee maker on the Boeing 777, so don't blame me for that, okay? Okay, the Boeing 767 fleet. Now, this was the problem child in this airline. It was a problem because it was kind of unusual. It included the 757. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe somebody knows why they did that, but they did. And so we had two airplanes we had to deal with. They had different flying characteristics, but the same type rating. It didn't make a lot of sense. That's the way the world is. Sometimes the world doesn't make sense. All right, so that was what I was given, and I had to come up with a solution. It also included the Boeing 777, which was being launched by the airline. We weren't directly involved in that, but we were actually, in a tangential way, involved in getting this airplane up and running because this airline was the launch customer for the Boeing 777, and that had a lot of influence on what we were trying to accomplish. Here you see some of the bells and whistles for the Boeing 777. The problem, now here was the key, and this is the key in any problem-solving initiative that's complex. I don't care where it is, where you're coming from, what industry, whatever. Even your personal life could be, all right, if you identify it. You have to be able to define the problem for which you are seeking a solution without mentioning the solution. It has to be a pure problem definition. And that was one of the things, the keys to our success. We decided right up front that we didn't actually know what the problem was. We had some symptoms, you know, longer training times, pilot performance going downwards and all of that stuff, but these are symptoms. What is the problem exactly? That's what we're trying to discover. Okay, we had difficulties, of course. We talked about that, skill retention, recurrent training stress, all these things were enormously difficult, but they were symptoms to a deeper problem. What was it? Well, we looked at the problem space. Problem doesn't exist in isolation, it exists within the frame of reference of something. And the problem space was quite revealing. Number one, this is a highly complex environment. And that comes with its own set of characteristics, by the way. Critical operational concerns. We had to identify what they were. And those are listed. I'm not going to read it. You can read them, right? But there were critical operational concerns. So we had to make those clear. We had to write them down. You know, we were in this room, you know, our big briefing room. We had charts, and we would write things down and brainstorm and all kinds of things, and we wrote them down. And our administrative people typed them up, you know, and kept them, preserved them. We had these concerns, and we were, you know, taped on your bedroom, you know, key operational concerns. Information management challenge was huge because this was, a lot of times, this is the first glass airplane that these pilots had ever experienced. They were coming from traditional, we call them, what do we call them, Major? The steam gauge, right? Right? You know, the analog world, all right? So this is the first glass airplane. So we had that hurdle also. Critical flight maneuvers. The most serious problem that we discovered after doing a lot of simulator work, we didn't guess it, we looked at it analytically. We did a lot of simulator work in all of the airplanes, not just the Boeing 767 and the 757. We also did work in the 777 and the Boeing 737. And we discovered something quite amazing. The critical flight maneuvers were not adequately addressed. The pilots were expected to perform something that they were not given the proper tools to perform. Overall pilot performance, as you can see in the Boeing 767 fleet, was decreasing dramatically. This was huge. It was a huge corporate issue that we had to deal with. And we had to raise that up. We had to get that moving in a positive direction as quickly as possible. Okay, training and operations. That was the key here, the training and operations. We had to deal with that. And we had to figure out exactly what it meant to be in a mission-critical situation. Mission-critical environment, what is it? Okay. It embraces, not entirely now, because I'm doing a short version of this, because Hans won't let me go more than 25 minutes, right? So, you know, so So I'm tightly constrained here, under a lot of stress. How am I doing? This is a...
It's just 5 minutes to go, so.
Engine out operations, escape recovery maneuvers, this is part of it. Also, terrain critical stuff. Non-precision approach in a terrain critical environment is another one. Terrain critical takeoffs, you can see you don't want to take straight off out of here, you want to turn left, right? So those are the mission, some, not all, but some of the mission critical activities that we were looking at very, very seriously. The key was performance aids. Boy, if we could do something there, if we could really be helpful, all right, and we did. The spoiler alert, we developed the performance aids. These were mock-ups now. We couldn't put them into the cockpit environment because you have to go through the certification, and you know how long that takes, right? But we did the mock-ups phase, the cardboard mock-up, and boy, did they work. Whew. Amazing. Okay, solution space. We looked at the technical, flight crew, and the operational, came up with the critical flight maneuvers as the key thing that was not being addressed, but should have been. The big picture problem was display features were not optimized for mission critical operations. The big picture problem, again, the display features were optimized for normal flight operations. Why was that? Not exactly sure. Maybe somebody knows. We'll talk a little bit about that after, okay? Give me your thoughts on that, okay? Mission critical, of course, complex, urgent, and time compressed, right? It's a very, complex, by the way, is a formal definition. It's an actual place in reality. So complexity has its own definition, its own theory. All right, so we're not just, making up words here. That's a defined aspect of reality. Urgent, of course, got to be done right now, and the activity has to be performed within a very, very short time period, so it's time compressed. Optimized mission performance, normal and mission critical. Is this optimized for both normal and mission critical operations? Is that display? That's a modern primary flight display for a modern airplane. And the answer is no, that's optimized for normal operations. It's not optimized for mission critical operations. We're going to get into that. By the way, tape displays, I believe, were first used in the F-106. If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong. Does anybody know otherwise? Now it's used, I think, across the board. I know all the airplanes all the modern airplanes, I think, have them. And I like tape displays, that's fine. I'm not, I like them. I think they're better than round dial for airspeed and altitude. It gives you more information. You can do more precision work with them. Okay, this is optimized for normal operations, critical flight maneuvers. No, it is not, because it doesn't help you if you have to perform an escape maneuver, a recovery maneuver, or avoidance maneuver. I will say, as a caveat, TCAS does provide you with some guidance, but remember that the TCAS system is pretty stupid. Okay? You got to really think hard if you want to do what it is telling you to do. You got to really think hard. Don't be a dummy. All right? You got to think. You're the final decision maker, and so you got to make sure that you agree or disagree with the TCAS. Engine out precision approach. Is this system optimized for the critical flight maneuver for an engine out precision approach? The answer it is not. I'm going to get into that in a minute. Critical flight maneuvers, again, engine out, non-precision, escape and recovery maneuvers. Those pretty much cover most of it, not all of it, but most of it. Okay, there it is, escape recovery. And by the way, that pretty much is what it looks like when you're taking off out of Reno to the south and you've lost an engine. You got to wait until you clear that mountain before you turn left. If you turn left before 3 miles, you're dead. Performance aids for all critical flight maneuvers. Is that possible? Yes, we actually did that in this study. We did a cockpit mock-up because we didn't have the ability, I wish we did, to go into the MFD, the airplane system. Remember that the Boeing 777 is a fly-by-wire 1553 data bus airplane, which basically means that all systems can talk to each other. There are 250 computers in the airplane, and they all talk to each other. Okay, so it's connected. Everything is connected. So it knows everything. All you have to do is tap into that knowledge base and use it. Critical flight maneuver performance aids, that was the key graphic done by my graphics artist, Jennifer. She's a genius. I love her. And she does all my graphics work. That's a definition of a critical flight maneuver. You can read it. You done reading? No. Well, Hans is not giving me a lot of time, right? So here's another one, takeoff with a T procedure. All right, displays optimized for mission critical operations. Normal ops on the left, mission critical operations on the right. This should be different. The right one should be different, all right? And you say, okay, Kevin, here's a good question for Kevin, all right? Aren't all critical flight maneuvers different and unique? No, they're not. There's lots of commonality across all critical flight maneuvers. So if we are going to deal with the critical flight maneuvers one at a time, fine. That's how we do it now. Right? That's how we do it now. Under Part 121, I don't know if the Air Force does it this way, but under Part 121, you have wind shear training, check. You have terrain escape, check. You have stall recovery, check. Now they want deep stall recovery, check. They're all done individually, all separately, all checked off individually. Is that the smartest way to go? Okay. That's one way to do it. My position is no, that's not the smartest way to go, because I built training programs for under Part 121 and come up with the conclusion that no, that's not the smartest way to go, and the pilots don't like it. It's not pilot friendly. So where does this go? Well, what we did is we put it on a cardboard mock-up before the pilot went into the simulator. That was the best thing that we could do, all right? And we said, okay, this is in fact the mission performance aid for these maneuvers that you are going to accomplish. Remember, under AQP, it's called maneuver validation, right? And so we do all the maneuvers during the simulator session. We do all of them. For these, all of these are critical flight maneuvers. For all these maneuvers, this is what it takes to do it well the first time. So, but ultimately, it ought to be there. There's no reason for it not to be. It's on the upper and lower ICAS. You can see the lower ICAS. This happens to be a Boeing 777. See the upper ICAS, and then you have the lower ICAS, which basically is underused. So that's underused real estate. I wanted to put it all under a single umbrella. Now that's me. You know, that's how Kevin thinks. All right? I like to think of things in holistically or group things together. So I put it under an umbrella, and I came up with this cute name called ERICA. ERICA actually stands for Event Response Integrated Knowledge Advisor. Okay? I know it's a bit of a stretch, but I like it anyway. So I'm going to stick with ERICA. You can call it whatever you want to, all right? Call it Jenny. But I call it ERICA. Graphics artist again. Nice job. ERICA, what does ERICA do? ERICA actually groups all of this stuff together, so you can deal with it as a package. All right, so you walk into the your schoolhouse with ERICA, or you walk into the cockpit and dump ERICA into the cockpit environment. And what does ERICA do? Well, it does three things. It gives you precision maneuver guidance, which we will discuss today, but we're not going to discuss the other two because Hans will not give me the time. If I do go over, he charges me extra, I think. Did I get that right? No. Precision maneuver guidance. We're going to talk about that. The other two we can talk about later. They are, by the way, addressed in my book, so I didn't forget about them.
Don't tell us all the secrets.
No, I won't. I'm not going to tell you all the secrets. No. Precision maneuver guidance. This happens to be an engine failure on takeoff procedure at a terrain critical airport. Pops up on the center ICAS. Upper. PIP, everybody knows what that is, right? Picture within a picture. And then it gravitates over to the navigation display, but it first pops up there. Now, in actual tests, and this was one of the things that drove me in this direction, because when I was working this problem for this airline and trying to be as helpful as I possibly could be, I went back and looked at all of the incidents that we had in our database, all the safety data that we had. I looked at it all right? I looked at all the training data. You know, airlines collect more data than you can possibly imagine. We are, you know, the data collectors of the universe, I think. Every time an engine actually failed in an actual flight environment in this airline, not very many, by the way, thank goodness, but whenever an actual engine failed in this airline, the engine failure on takeoff procedure was not followed correctly. Something was missing in the equation. This happens to be precision maneuver guidance that ought to come up on the displays to help you with your engine out approach. Critical flight maneuvers, target pitch. This is and the solution was this. If you want to say, Kevin, what's the bottom line of this whole thing? What is the thing that affected performance the most, or had the greatest effect on performance improvement? All right, now I'm not just making this up. This was tested, and we tried it out. We put this in place, and the greatest effect on performance improvement was this: the target pitch attitude for all critical flight maneuvers must be known prior to maneuver execution. Do not follow the flight director. The flight director is inaccurate and it is too slow. That eventually got into all of the flight manuals in this airline, all right, eventually. But we broke the code. The flight director in the Boeing 777 was, in some flight modes, was so inaccurate that we just ignored it. The flight director is an aid, but it is not to be followed blindly. The pitch has to be done. Now you say, boy, that's a lot of information. No, there's only a few, okay? Very, very easy to know. No, you can learn it in 5 minutes. The pitch attitude for all critical flight maneuvers. You can learn it in 5 minutes, right? Now, review it before you go into the simulator, right? Right? There it is. Pitch attitude must be known. That's the key. That was the key to success. Now, once we did that, you should see the performance improvement. In fact, we tried this out. We had these mock-ups, and we tried this out on a flight crew. And a transition training program for the 767 fleet, we actually tried this out, and we put the flight crew through this training, this initiative that we had with these mock-ups, these cardboard mock-ups, and then we sent them into the transition training program. Now, normally it takes 6 simulator rides before you're ready for your check ride, okay? And this crew was proficient after 2. So we had some pretty good data. Now, we do 100 crews. Actually, we did. We did, I think we did 250 crews in all told. I think over a 10-year period, we did about 250 crews. We put them through this special training pipeline. This happens to be just some stuff where you could add some really important features to the navigation display. This happens to be a critical flight maneuver coming up where you have to divert. And I'm at the end.
1 minute left.
I did good, all right? Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Captain Smith. Please.
Oh, yeah,
Any
questions, yeah.
questions?
Yeah. Don't be bashful. Come on, Major. He has
And we were
questions.
very curious.
He has
to
questions,
know how
I don't know, you have questions, I know.
Go ahead.
So, speaking about the primary flight display, how do you see the room for adding more graphics existing here?
No, the primary flight display, well, let me put it this way. If you look at the cockpit environment of a modern airliner today, all right, and a prototypical would be the Boeing 777, okay? The first one that had all of this bells and whistles was the 747-400. I actually did fly that airplane also. Right? So I was one of the first to fly that from San Francisco to Hong Kong. So I did fly the 747-400, but there wasn't very many of them that we bought, and so eventually I got to the 777. That's a typical environment. If you look at the primary flight display, it's way too cluttered. Too much. Way too much, all right? If you look at the modern HUD display for an airliner, just look at it and do this experiment, okay? I did this experiment. Now, I'm used to HUDs. We had HUDs in the military, and I flew the first dynamic HUD. That goes way back, all right? The first dynamic HUD, which was we used to have a fixed gun sight, but then they invented the gyro stabilized gun sight, and I flew the first airplane that had that. With guns. I mean, we actually did have guns. There are 33 separate informational items on a head-up display for a transport airplane. In addition to 33 separate informational items, you have the real world in the background. And so that could be 10 more, it could be 20 more. There is way too much information on the HUD. You got to come up with a different idea, all right? I would go clean slate. I would say, okay, whatever we did in the past, fine. Okay, let's go clean slate. Let's redesign it from the ground up. Exactly what do you need on the primary flight display for this phase of the mission? Make it mission phase specific. Do we know how many phases there are in an air transport mission? Yes, we do. There are exactly 18. How do we know that? Because AQP tells us that. Okay, and for each phase, we have a terminal proficiency objective. You got half your battle done. It's already been done. You have all these TPOs to drive your design now. You got a terminal proficiency objective. It doesn't say how you're going to do this, but it tells you what your proficiency requirements are. What do you actually have to do during that phase, okay? All right? So go clean slate, look at it objectively, not from any past. Now remember, I didn't talk about this, but this was a huge concern when digital avionics was first being developed. And it happened to be in about 1988. And there was this very important conference that was planned. It's called the Digital Avionics Systems Conference. It was being held at San Jose in 1988. And it was sponsored jointly by IEEE and AIAA. And this was going to be the premier conference in the world on digital avionics systems. They were concerned, and distributed nationally. So I'm a video star. Well, my video, hey, put that on the tape. They were concerned that the industry was building digital representations of analog systems. And they knew was the problem. Now, what did the industry do? Just like any industry, they struggle. Maybe they do their best, I don't know. The time right now, the window's open, okay? It doesn't open. These opportunities for innovation don't occur very often. They occur once in a while. When AQP started, the window of opportunity was open to redesign airline pilot training, but it closed quickly, right? And it was about a 2-year window. And I was working that time, and so we made some progress. Was it perfect? No. Was it complete progress? No. We did the best we could at the time we had. We had about 2 years, right? And I think we did a good job, given that. All the airlines are using it now. I'm very proud of that, the fact that we were able to do that. The window of opportunity now is open now in the cockpit environment, but only for a short period of time. Now's the time to get your research proposals in. All right, we talked about that. I mean, I'm dead serious here, all right? Dead serious. You research people, now's the time to get your research proposals in, all right, to the federal agencies. It could be SBIR. I don't care, all right? Go out and do it. The window is open. The money is going to be there. I guarantee how long have I been around in aviation? I've seen it happen, okay? I started my aviation career going through Navy flight training to become a naval aviator. I started it in 1963. So I've been around a long time. And windows of opportunity only open sporadically through any 100-year cycle. And now's the time. This is I tell people that I meet, I tell my good friend that Masood that works at Embry-Riddle, he's the director of research at Embry-Riddle. good friend of mine, I tell him, hey, Masood, this is the time, get your proposals in. Money's going to be there. I've seen it happen. Right? Get it in. What are you going to do? Anything you can think of, all right? I like the idea that maybe you can help the cockpit environment. I kind of think you can, all right? If you don't actually think you can, I would suggest you call up Alaska Airlines and tell them that I sent you, by the way, because they know who I am, and they're doing some good work. Also, we need to talk offline about Southwest Airlines because they need some help from the research community, big time. All right, now's the time to say, okay, Southwest, we're here. We're here for you. All right. Now they put some feelers out to me. Now I'm not a research scientist. All right. What am I? I don't even know. I am an operational guy who comes up with ideas. All right. So I'm an idea guy, but I'm not in that business. All right. But they need help right now. So the guy called me up. I know people at Southwest. All right. And they said, we need some help here. What is it? Well, you know, we've got this huge problem, which is corrupted data. How many times have we seen corrupted data cause an accident? Air France, right? 447, South Atlantic, you know, you name it. Lion Air, Ethiopian Air. You know, corrupted data. You know, we got to do something about corrupted data. We got to figure out some kind of a training program. There you go. Okay. I'm off my soapbox. How did I do? Did I motivate you? Yeah?
Any other questions? I think Kevin is around and he will be open and probably very eager also to explain the other systems which he could not introduce here as a presentation because of the limited time, which is my fault. And thank Kevin for his expertise and encouraging words. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you to the audience.